Welcome, beautiful people of all ages, shapes, and colors, to another episode of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, where we encourage you to stick to the basics. I'm one of your co-hosts, TV, aka TV on Basketball, alongside my co-host Jay, aka the Knockdown Jay. How's it going, my guy?
Bro, these playoffs have not disappointed. I feel like I've said it every single episode, but the games continue to elevate, bro. We're getting knockdown, drag out physical series,
Yes.
game winning buzzer beaters, knockdown threes from players that have just been shooting absolute lights out all year and continuing that into the postseason. Superstars are rising to the occasion. Like, bro, anything and everything you could ask for in this postseason so far has clicked. We've had a couple little injury scares. We are going to talk about that in today's episode. But for the most part, bro, so far so good. I can't lie.
Bro, just like the timeline from like when we last recorded to now, we've had three major collapses in the playoffs happen. Whether it's the Pacers Bucks, we had the Pacers Cavs just last night. We had the Thunder Nuggets a couple nights ago. Jay, this has been absolutely insane, and we have a lot to talk about today because we're gonna see if we're gonna have the panic button or not. We're gonna try and rank these four series about how worried you are for the team that is down. We're gonna be talking about what happens next to the Clippers. They got eliminated, so we're gonna have to figure out. Me and Jay are gonna try to put together some sort of argument to see what they're gonna do after the season. And then Jay, we are less than a week away from the NBA the draft lottery, so we're gonna do a little bit of a draft lottery of our own and see how crazy this draft lottery could be. There's a lot of speculation of like who's gonna move up, who's gonna move down. We're gonna see how our draft lottery plays out, and we're gonna be talking about that as well. So yeah, action-packed episode. Make sure you sit down, relax, and enjoy. This is going to be a definitely long one. We have a lot of stuff to get to. But before we get into that, we do have to plug our socials. Make sure you follow our individual socials at TV on Basketball and at the Knockdown J, as well as the Ruchi Jumper. Those links will be found in the description down below. In terms of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, make sure you follow us on TikTok and Instagram for the best daily NBA content. You get the clips. You have the series, like the game recaps that we post every single day. All of that stuff can be found on for the daily content on TikTok and Instagram. In terms of the podcast networks, make sure you subscribe, leave a like, listen on Spotify, Apple as well. So please continue to support there. And in terms of the YouTube, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you won't miss an episode. Also check out the YouTube Shorts because we also post the game recaps over there. Jay, you ready to get into this?
Hey, bro, it's been a jam-packed playoff. So, I mean, it's a lot to talk about in terms of these four series right here. It feels crazy to feel like we're already this far into the playoffs there, though, too.
I
Crazy.
know, it's crazy. Because like by the time we're recording right now, we're about 4 or 5 games into the second round. We have like 4 or 5 games I've played. And Jay, I don't know if this has happened before or when the last time this happened. The home team hasn't won yet. None of the home teams have won yet. The higher seed in each of these series are all like either 1-0 down, or if in the case of the Cavs, they are 2-0 down in the series.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff that's happening. Like I mentioned, a couple of fourth quarter collapses. Even I didn't even mention earlier the freaking Celtics Knicks game in game one, kind of a collapse on the Celtics part. But what me and Jay are gonna do here is we're gonna try and rank these series based on how worried are you for the upper seed. So we're gonna kind of think of it together and try and figure out this list ourselves. We're not doing our own individual list, but we're gonna try and talk things through. But Jay, I'm gonna throw it over to you. Is there one team that you're either most worried about or least worried about? Tell me where your headspace is at.
So, the team that I'm the most, like, worried about in the postseason has to be, I mean, arguably the only team that is down 0-2 at the moment going on the road, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They win the game 2 without their starting point guard, all-star caliber point guard Darius Garland. They didn't have Evan Mobley, who just won DPOY as well, and they also did not have DeAndre Hunter either. And so when you go into a game like that and you're down 3 key players, one being an on-ball initiator, another one being a sixth man of the year candidate that was having a really strong season on both sides of the ball, hitting the three at a high clip and coming off and playing really good defense as a guy with a little bit more size. And then Evan Mobley, who is spoken for. Like I said, just recently won DPOY. The fact that they're still listed as questionable, and me and TV checked this before the podcast just to make sure if things change by the time game 3 comes, then, strike me down for that one. But what I'm saying is that going into it, as of this podcast, they are still listed as questionable, which is dangerous because they're going on the road to Indiana against a Pacers team that this very season, was 29-12 at the crib. This team does not lose at the crib like that, TV.
Yeah.
And so now that the Indiana Pacers are playing with house money, going back home, up 0-2, with the ability to, at bare minimum, that they split, they still have full command of the series, both statistically and logistically. This is a scary situation for the Cavaliers when you also factor in that we don't have a great timetable on their superhero superstars to come save the day.
Bro, this feels like the opposite of last year. If you guys remember, the Cavs last year missed Evan Mobley for a good significant chunk of the season. Darius Garland had a pretty bad injury himself, and that injury not only did he miss a lot of games in the regular season, but it affected him well into the playoffs. Jay, if you remember, Donovan Mitchell had to do a big carry job in that Orlando Magic series because Darius Garland just was not himself. And the thing was, this year we're applauding the Cavaliers because they stayed healthy for a majority of the year. We're like, man, one of the best teams in the East. Their coach just won Coach of the Year in Kenny Atkinson. Everything was looking fine and dandy. And now all the injuries are coming at the worst possible time. And Jay, they almost got thrown a lifeline. They had no business being that big up in this game. Donovan Mitchell, 48 points. Max Strus doing all in his power as a super role player in that game. 23 points, especially in that third quarter when the Pacers started coming back. Getting that lead back up to 17 was absolutely huge. But the lifeline they were thrown, they still couldn't take advantage. And the Pacers, for the second time this week, we're not going to really talk about the first one on this podcast because it happened almost a week ago where the Bucks were up by I think it was 8 or 7 points with 40 seconds left, and somehow, some way, the Pacers came back. Very similar here. We're just over a minute left. Max Strus hits a three, and then a bunch of stuff happened, including a missed Tyrese Halliburton layup led to a three. They win the game, and now, like you said, they're up 2-0. They have no pressure going back home, and honestly, they play they're probably more excited. Man, there's a chance that they can end this at home. There's really a chance there. So I am, again, like you said, I am the most worried for them too. I think that's a clear number one because you had expectations now going into the postseason. You're expected to beat this Pacer team, and you had the first two games at home, but now you're not able to. Now you have to try and make up the. You have to make up the time by winning both games on the road, which is going to be super tough. I think there was a series a couple years ago where that happened, right? Where it was only the road team was one.
Yeah, I mean that honestly, I think it was a year or two ago. It happened in a couple of series at the same time, and it's obviously not the most common thing in the world, but it is one of those things that creates a real influx in terms of then how does a game 7 play out, because obviously at that point you can't really weigh anything. We talked about this off camera, but I want to bring it to light on the pod now. Something I think was so interesting about this first set of games for Indiana particularly was that they were able to get Cleveland to play at their pace. And a lot of that was pushed to the fact that obviously with players like DeAndre Hunter and Evan Mobley out, in my personal opinion, I felt like the Cleveland Cavaliers looked a lot smaller. I feel like when Jared Allen is really your only primary big, yes, they had Dean Wade. Yes, they still had Max Strus, who are relatively bigger players for the position. But I think the fact that Evan Mobley and DeAndre Hunter just play so much bigger into their frame, especially defensively, they look so much smaller without those guys. And we saw certain instances where the Indiana Pacers were able to get to the free throw line, able to get to the paint. I mean, the amount of paint touches by the Indiana Pacers in game 2 specifically, ridiculous. And I was talking about this with TV off camera about this resurgence of the mid-range game from Pascal Siakam. Pascal has always been a mid-range operator as a guy who's a real savant within 12 to 14 feet. But I saw him really take advantage of physical matchup disadvantages for the Cleveland Cavaliers throughout game 2, more specifically, especially one-on-one against Max Strus. Unfortunately, he was getting a lot of buckets in his face. But Pascal was doing a lot of everything, man. It was reminding me of a post-Kawhi Leonard championship that year right afterwards. Pascal seemed to be able to get anything he wanted from that 12 to 14 mid-range spot area. And in game 2, it felt like whether it was at the mid-range, it was in the open floor, whether it was off cuts, backdoor, it just seemed like without that rim deterrent or secondary or tertiary rim deterrent, whether you're looking at the first line of defense being DeAndre Hunter, the second line of defense being Evan Mobley, whatever the case may be, without that wall built around and simply relying on Jared Allen as this one-man, rim defender, Pascal seemed to just be able to operate in whatever way he wanted once you step within the three-point line. And I mean, if that's going to be how they operate, then if Indiana is able to thrive within that, this series is not going to go the distance, because that was my biggest fear, was that they were going to have to be reliant on Pascal Siakam to do that, and have someone like Evan Mobley, someone like DeAndre Hunter would be able to contain that. If they're not able to contain it, and they do not have those two guys in order to also respond on the offensive end, man, that puts a lot of pressure on the Pacers, and a lot of pressure on the Cavaliers. Excuse me, and you mentioned it too. Donovan Mitchell, 48 points, and played absolutely out of his mind. The acrobatic finishes, getting to the line, punching the ball like 3 or 4 times. I think he even baptized the dude. I forget which one caught it, but somebody caught work. I think, I was gonna say someone caught work. I remember catching that midway through eating and almost dropped everything, because I was just so shocked by the fact that he was on 10. I think it was at like the midway portion of the second quarter or somewhere like that. That's going to be tough to replicate. We know that. We know that Donovan Mitchell is a playoff riser. But we're getting to the point where Donovan Mitchell teams, these number 1, number 2 overall seed teams killing in the regular season, get to the postseason. Hey, man, I'm not going to blame Donovan Mitchell for these collapses, bro. I understand that there's a common denominator, that he happens to always be on these high-performing regular season teams.
Not with this Cavs team. Not with these injuries. You can't be doing that with this. Bro, I saw a freaking graphic of comparing this team to the freaking Atlanta Hawks from like 2015. I'm like, there's just no way you could say that and see that Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and DeAndre Hunter aren't playing. Donovan Mitchell tried his damn hardest. If you look at the end of the game, this man was on his hands and knees, tired, because of the amount of abuse he was getting, because the three-point shot wasn't hitting as much, 1 for 7. The three-point shot hasn't really been hitting for the Cavs the second round, by the way, which we thought was going to be key going into this.
Yeah.
But he has to do a lot of his stuff in the paint. And he got to the line 21 times, 15 for 30 from the field, and a lot of that was inside the touch paints. And he's not the biggest guy either. So when he's bagging it there with a Pascal Siakam, at a lot of times Aaron Nesmith is on him, Turner at the paint, that's just going to take a lot out of him. Yeah. And at this point, they're lucky they have 2 games. They have 2 games, 2 days rest going into Friday, but they need these guys back, mostly just to because we talked about it last year. Donovan Mitchell can't do it all himself. Yeah. So you just need these guys to help him just alleviate the pressure. And we know how good Darius Garland can be. He's shown that this year. And empowering Evan Mobley has made him such a good player, an impact player on the offensive end. So even for Donovan Mitchell's sake, you just need to have someone else out there. But it's going to be tough when this Pacer team is playing the way they are. And I think we mentioned this maybe in the last podcast, maybe it was off pod. But Tyrese Halliburton's confidence just freaking what's it called? It just drips to the rest of the team. I don't know what it's like. It just kind of influences the rest of the team. Yeah. Because when he is taking these ballsy shots, the one he did yesterday, the swagger that he's playing with, the fact that he's trying to, fan out all of the overrated chants. You have all this happening, and you see kind of the best of Miles Turner during this playoffs. Andrew Nembhard's playing great. Aaron Nesmith. We talked about how, I think even in the last episode, how Anthony Edwards' energy is just, so infectious that's going to the rest of the team. I think people are seeing, how Tyrese Halliburton is kind of being disrespected as of late. He's kind of stepping up to the plate, and because of that, everyone else is stepping up to the plate. And if the Pacers are playing like that, we talk about how they're already one of the more underrated teams in the league, top 10 defense, top 10 offense. If they're playing at the highest level and all these guys are performing, plus the Cavs can't get their guys back, I think we're priming for an upset here.
Yeah, we're looking at a big upset potentially, and the main thing too is you mentioned the overrated chance, things in terms of the opinions around Tyrese Halliburton at the moment. This is a guy that when he's playing at his top tier, bro, when he's playing at his best, top tier point guard in the league, people want to try to forget it because they let the Indiana Pacers logo make you think lesser of that team, smaller market, not necessarily built out the superstar talent, all these different things. Tyrese Halliburton, we were having a conversation not even 2 years ago about whether or not it was him or Nikola Jokic for the most influential offensive player in the league in terms of his impact individually on how his team runs offense, right? This is arguably a number one. This is arguably you put him on any team with the kind of play style that he runs with, and it creates a run and gun 7 seconds or less offense automatically just by his ability to feed and push pace. This is a dude who plays in a very special manner, and one that is hard for other point guards in the past to keep up, but very effective for those who have mastered it. Tyrese Halliburton has created a play style all within his own while also building off of certain play styles of the past, the Steve Nashes of the world, early New Orleans Hornets versions of Chris Paul, and those who have just been really good at pushing the pace as a pass first point guard. And don't let that pass first fool you. There are games like game 2 where when you need the ball in the final seconds, you give him the rock. And we've seen this, and not just this series, but in series even dating back to their Eastern Conference Finals run last year. There were games where, although Tyrese had some quiet stinkers, he also had some games that your jaw dropped to the floor because he put a performance together that made it where the Pacers were able to persevere in a lot of games where they were probably seen as underdogs. This is a guy not to sleep on. Tyrese Halliburton, y'all can give him the overrated tag if you want to. You keep sleeping. I'm awake, though. I'm awake.
I mean, like, it was already a stupid decision to begin with to have. That some of his peers said he was overrated. To be honest, they could just be the freaking Bucks who are like Bucks players who are freaking hating on him at this point. But he's shown this playoffs he is a damn good player. Post All-Star break, he's been incredible, and now it's like translating here. And the Pacers look like they're on their way to their second straight conference finals appearance. Jay, we're gonna move on to the next series, and I'm not even gonna talk about the second most worried I am for a series here. I'm gonna go all the way to the bottom to the fourth.
Okay.
Because I'm not worried about the Timberwolves at all, bro. I'm not worried about them whatsoever. I'm going to put them at fourth there with the Warriors. And a big part of that, as of recording yesterday, the Timberwolves did lose 99-88. Horrible three-point shooting. They missed, I think, like their first 16 or 17 threes in the game, which was absolutely horrible. Yeah. Anthony Edwards, 1 point in the first half. It got so bad to the point where in the post-game press conference, Chris Finch did call him out as the leader of the team in the press conference, and they just didn't play a great game overall. Like the Warriors, and we're gonna talk about this more in depth like shortly. But Steph Curry got injured in the second quarter when they were up by 10. He's probably gonna be out for about 2 to 3 games or so.
Yeah.
And somehow, some way, the Timberwolves weren't able to take advantage. They let Draymond Green hit his first 4 threes. Jimmy Butler had a good game. Buddy Hield just took over in the third quarter. That just was not the Timberwolves team that we saw against the Lakers in round 1. Anthony Edwards didn't play great, and we might talk about this with Boston too, but this three-point shooting has been so bad these last 2 games, especially like in terms of the amount of misses, like in terms of percentage. I think in the press conference they said they were like 14 for 76 or something like that.
Jeez.
Absolutely awful. But again, I'm not worried about it. 1, because of the Steph injury, but I think 2, now understanding what they saw in game 1, and I think they started doing it more at the end of the game. The path to winning is inside the paint. I'm sorry,
yes.
but for the Minnesota Timberwolves, the path to winning is inside the paint, and you can see that with Anthony Edwards because he didn't hit his first. He only had 1 3 in this game, and he hit it like with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Every other bucket inside, hitting to the free throw line. That's where the game is going to be won. And then I mentioned this in my game preview, in my series preview beforehand. They have Julius Randle. They got Rudy Gobert. Those 2 guys were great in game 5. And sure, maybe there's a bit more physical guys in there for the Golden State Warriors, but they still got the advantage no matter what. So I think, although you would want them to get the shooting back, they are a top 5 shooting team in basketball. But the path to winning in this game is through the paint. And now that you're, now without Steph Curry, like having to worry about him in the offensive end, you can really like start attacking this team going inside now. And I think a lot of these guys, and even empowering Rudy Gobert, would be massive in this series. I just think that now without Steph Curry, and now that they kind of seen like where like the weakness of the Warriors lie, I think the Wolves will still end up winning the series. And unless Steph Curry comes back earlier than expected, I think it shouldn't be that close.
Yeah, I mean, TV, let's build off of what you just said by going down the 3 green flags that the Timberwolves have in their favor going into not only game 2, but the rest of the series. Building off of what you just said, the first green flag is that they dominated points in the paint in game 1. 52 points in the paint to 28. 52. Huh?
Was it 52? Yeah, you're right.
52 points in the paint to 28 points in the paint for the Golden State Warriors. 52 points in the paint for Timberwolves is a net positive in a game to kick off the series where they only made 5 of 29 threes, 17%, with Anthony Edwards going 0 of 10 to start the game. That is actually the secondary green flag is. How many games do you think Anthony Edwards is going to start with the cold emoji next to his name when he goes out to the court? Let's be honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How many games do we think he's going to start out that cold from the field? So your superstar player can only go upward in terms of building off the momentum from game one, specifically because we were able to see him get whatever he wanted with those paint touches, as you mentioned beforehand, in the second half of that game. And the third green flag in their favor is although they lost 88 to 99, some will say the Warriors held the Timberwolves to under 90 in a game without Steph Curry and in a game that didn't seem like it was necessarily a physically defensive matchup. I would also say in this same game, despite the Timberwolves shooting so terribly, Golden State didn't cross 100 points themselves.
Yes.
So that goes to tell you that if this is going to be a defensive matchup moving forward, I trust that Anthony Edwards is going to be the best player in the series moving forward if Steph Curry misses significant time. So you have the best player in the series coming off of easily his worst start to a game in a while. Obviously, the end of the Lakers series also had a little shades of this as well, but I don't think it's something that's continuous. You have a defense that has had the foundation of being a top 5, top 7 defense all year long and is going to and has shown that even through game one, they have the capability of holding a Golden State Warriors offense that shot the three ball at a pretty good clip with guys like Buddy Hield and Draymond Green shooting completely out of their bodies, right? And you still held them to under 100. So there's a lot of green flags that lean in the favor of the Timberwolves that say, especially with the Stephen Curry injury, this series could easily flip by the start of game 2 going on until when they obviously head to when they head on the road.
Yeah, no, 100%. It feels more of an anomaly more than anything going forward than it is like something that's going to be like a continuous pattern like the Timberwolves play. And not to be down on the Warriors too, but like going into the game too, like you already have a hobbled Jimmy Butler. You have who's having a game with a tailbone injury.
Yeah.
You're gonna be without Steph Curry. And we talk about the offense of the Timberwolves being kind of inconsistent. I mean, they've been shown to be inconsistent even in the regular season. But who's going to really pick up the slack for the Golden State Warriors at this point? I feel like it's just like such a tipping of the scales to the Timberwolves in terms of like talent and now offensive talent now without the Steph Curry factor that maybe there's a bit more pressure on the Timberwolves to kind of get it done, but at the same time, like they know like what needs to be done. They've been in this position before. And if anyone's not gonna like let them like take it easy, it's gonna be Chris Finch and Anthony Edwards. They're gonna not take this easy. So with the Warriors on the other hand, like the Timberwolves are at full strength, no Steph Curry. You saw what Steve Kerr had to do in that second half, and they had to dig up like a Pat Spencer. Jonathan Kuminga gets brought up to the surface. There's just too many factors that are just like kind of unknown to the Warriors at this point. Like where the offense is going to come from, who's going to be the genuine shot creator? Are we going to trust Buddy Hield after such an inconsistent regular season to continue to be this good as the playoffs progress? No. So I'm going to still put the Wolves at fourth. I think we're both in the greens of that. And the Steph Curry injury is a big part of that. And the Wolves seeing now how like game one's played out, they should be able to fix those mistakes.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the Timberwolves are in a really safe position. Obviously, the Curry injury itself sways so much, but I think there's so many other things from game one that tells you there are certain anomalies and certain factors that lean in the Timberwolves' favor that says in game two, if they respond properly, mainly going with the ideology that you pointed out, which is actually changing your framework of what has helped you win games throughout the season. We understood that 3-point shooting has been something that has helped elevate this team in a way that's different from even last season when they made their long run to the Western Conference Finals. But paint touches, we saw this at the back half of the Lakers series and also in game one. Paint touches, specifically for this team, is going to be what moves them throughout the Western Conference postseason. Period, point blank. This team's ability to get to the mid-range spots and get to the paint is going to be the thing that elevates them against a lot of these other teams in the Western Conference. that includes not just the Golden State Warriors, but I think honestly, I think out of the Nuggets and Oklahoma City Thunder are very vulnerable in that middle paint area with the kind of guys that they have driving to that space. Julius Randle, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels. Like, I think they have real physicality that when they play with it properly, they are a team that a lot of people don't know how to respond to because there's not too many people that have the kind of physicality to respond back to what the Timberwolves are bringing in every single night. So Minnesota, I feel very comfortable about them. I wanted to say I was a little worried when I saw that it was only 88 points, but I had to think about it and put it all together. How bad are the Timberwolves going to possibly shoot like this again from three? And then when you say in terms of every other category, personally, they were not dominated in any crazy way across the board. Rebounds weren't too far off. Offensive rebounds weren't too bad. Defensive rebounds weren't too bad. They won in the blocks department. They turned the ball over a little bit more than Golden State, but nothing too crazy. I mean, they even got to the line more. Like when you go across the ball game for every single stat line, and they also point out some of the superstar players and what their individual performances were. The Timberwolves are one Anthony Edwards anomaly and one I can't hit a three-pointer until midway through the third quarter anomaly away from this game being like 115-99 favorable to the Timberwolves. That quickly.
Yeah, 100%. And I know some people are worried about or kind of concerned, like especially like at the end of the game, that Kevon Looney kind of like took Rudy Gobert out of his element. If Kevon Looney's done most of your problems in that paint, I think the Timberwolves will be fine. I think they'll be good, and hopefully the Golden State Warriors actually play more because they actually played pretty decent. Jay, we're down to the last two series. Yep. In terms of the teams, I mean, we got the Celtics who are down 0-1. We have the Thunder who are down 0-1. Which team are you more worried for?
The team that I'm worried about more, honestly, and it's scary because they shouldn't be causing me this much strife, is the Boston Celtics. And TV, the reason why is the reason we said that the Magic series was gonna be a series that went 5 games. It's because the Celtics walk into every series like zombies. They walk into every series lackadaisical, underestimating, thinking that their way is going to be something that just punches everybody out. They're going to be up by 15 in the third quarter, and everybody's just going to bow to their whim, and the game's going to be over. That is not the way the Knicks play basketball. TV, Tibbs has these fellas playing 40-plus minutes a night for a reason. It's for nights like Game 1 against the Celtics, where you have to play at your apex for the full 48 to come back from down 20-plus, be down in the possessions going into the last 2 minutes of the game, and come out victorious with big buckets from Jalen Brunson, huge offensive rebound opportunities from Josh Hart, obviously, as well, who was major in this game as a rebounder, and just a second chance opportunities for them. And this is one of those games that I even look at the overtime, right? And it just seemed like even though the game score wasn't so significantly distant,
it was the Knicks game. It was the Knicks game, even in overtime.
It literally felt like the Knicks were. It felt like the Knicks just had more energy in overtime than the Celtics. Like the game ended much closer than you would have thought just based off the tape, because the tape tells you that the Knicks should have blown them out. Yeah. If the energy level was like that for a full 4 quarters. Like this game should have been blown out the water the way the Knicks were playing balls to the walls in OT compared to the Celtics. There's such a lack of urgency from the Celtics sometimes. And maybe it's just because of the too cool for school attitude of Jason Tatum, the very nonchalant approach of Jaylen Brown, and those two being their main primary leaders. The fact that they're more quiet guys in terms of Drew Holiday and Derek White are also leaders on the team, but not necessarily the most like outspoken individuals, right? Al Horford's Mr. Company Man in terms of the way his kind of persona is as a father figure / like, mentor to this team. You know what I mean? All of the like, there's a lot of too cool for school type of stuff that comes with the Boston Celtics, where they almost seem so calm that it comes off as nonchalant, and then against a team like the Knicks, it comes off as arrogance. Because you have teams you have players like Jason Tatum settling for 3-point shots in a game where clearly against the Knicks, you need to be physical. I've said this on podcast episodes before. We haven't talked about the Celtics in depth in a long time, TV. So maybe that's part of the reason why I'm like mini ranting here. But one of the things that I've said about Jason Tatum particularly is something that I've also seen grow within Paolo Banchero's game, which is why I'm such a fan of him right now. Is I'm gonna focus on Jason Tatum specifically. Jason Tatum, when he gets the ball in his hands, takes 2 dribbles and makes a decision, is one of the most dangerous isolation scorers in the league. Period. Point blank. When Jason Tatum gets into double tween, off the dribble, hezzy spin move into a 3-pointer that no one asked him to take with 14 seconds still left on the shot clock, that is when we see the ill-advised version of Jason Tatum that has been holding this Celtics team back, and we thought he G-checked that last year because he was so much better of a facilitator. He was making decisions much quicker. He seemed like he was just scoring the ball with so much more ease last season. And here we are, it seems like slowly but surely drifting back into that bad habit of almost thinking too much about how he creates offense. And you can see with him and Jaylen Brown, the your turn, my turn, slowing things down, paired with the insane amount of 3-point shots that the Celtics take, this team is so good at shooting themselves in the foot. And we've seen it time and time and time again. And I think this is another series where they are going to get caught lacking. And it's going to be a bigger question of not necessarily how good they are, but how good they are at responding. And that's not the type of thing that I think we would be asking ourselves coming into the second round against a Knicks team where not only are the Celtics favored, you're still the defending champs, boss. Yeah. And you were on your home floor and had the game in full control through the first 2.5 quarters. And you lit the gas up at the crib and gave the game away. And that just feels like the story of the Celtics, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's the war of attrition with this team, man. It's the war of attrition. Like, you talk about the overtime period. You would think that freaking Mikal Bridges just did not play the entire game with the energy that he was playing in the fourth quarter. Defensively, this is like some of the best I've seen Mikal Bridges in the New York Knicks uniform. The way he was like pressing up on Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. The way he was like getting involved in the offensive end. Like, you talked about it. Like, this Knicks team, I know, again, it might bite them a bit down the line in the series if it continues to go long, but they're used to playing these high level basketball for this amount of time. We could criticize Tibbs, but this is what you prepared them for. Exactly. Hoping there's no injuries along the way. And their war of attrition led them to just slowly but surely chipping away, and they got to the point where, okay, we're in striking distance. We have the clutch player of the year. We're gonna just go to him, and he's just gonna completely kill you in the final 2 minutes, which Jalen Brunson did. And to be fair with Jalen Brunson, this game could have been over in regulation. Jay, I don't know if you saw that floater near the end of the game.
Off the back iron, yup.
Off the back iron. Mm-hmm. A shot that Jalen Brunson hits like 9 out of 10 times. Yep. And he missed it. I think that's honestly such a compliment to Jalen Brunson, because the fact that we were just surprised at the fact that he missed that floater kind of just shows like how good of a basketball player he is, and especially in the clutch, that like, wow, he missed that shot. Yeah. But at the same time, like, you could tell by the body language and just the way that the offenses were operating that the Knicks just like were more ready when it came to crunch time. And you talk about like the Celtics going lackadaisical, you could tell that in the play calling, because they didn't really change up the plan. I mean, we talk about the Timberwolves not switching up the plan. This is like the Timberwolves situation, but times 2, because they shot 15 for 60 from the line. And Jay, this is a crazy stat. Earlier in Game 5 of the Lakers-Timberwolves, the Timberwolves broke the record for most missed threes in a single playoff game with 40. 5 days later, the Celtics broke that record by missing 45 threes in Game 1. People talk about, like, a lot of media is always bashing the new game and talking about these 3-point shots, but I would like to say, like, none of these teams are like none of the other teams are like so stubborn with like not deviating from the plan as the Celtics are compared to the league. So I'm not gonna say that this is like the standard from the league, but this is like more of an anomaly, because maybe this is where we have to point the finger at Joe Mazzulla. switch something up. Like, switch something up at some point. Like, clearly something isn't working, and that can't just be your only offense. Where even if you get the offensive rebound, you can't just kick it out and just do another three and just hope it goes in. Because clearly that just didn't help. And compared to the Knicks, who went 18 for 37, shot like half the amount of threes, made three more than you, it definitely just wasn't your day from three. So I say all this to basically conclude that the Celtics, like you said in round one with the Orlando Magic, kind of just play around too much, like especially in the early parts of the series, and you wait for them to kind of bounce back to see them like kind of like lock in. But if you start doing that too much, especially now with a more seasoned team in the New York Knicks, a team where if you go close, I'm taking the Knicks every time. I'm sorry. Like, if you start playing around too much, then it's going to kind of bite you in the foot. And we saw that with how the Cavs did at the end of this game. The Celtics could find themselves like in like an uncomfortable part of the series. Like, I'm not going to say that that they're not going to like win this series, especially because of how bad they shot in the last game. I mean, that was the second worst shooting night under Joe Mazzulla ever. But at the same time, like, we've seen this version of the Celtics too much, and I think at some point, karma's going to get them.
I completely agree with you. I think it's the reason why we picked the Celtics to win in 5 games instead of a clean sweep against Orlando. It's just because they always play with their food, man. The Celtics are built to still be a much favorable matchup for a much more favorable matchup for the Knicks, right? But TV, here's the thing. And I'm gonna put this is actually my kind of more of my concluding point. It's more in the form of something I'm looking forward to throughout the rest of this series. In game 1, Karl-Anthony Towns finished with only 14 points through 4 quarters and overtime. On the flip side of that, TV, do you know how many points Kristaps Porzingis had?
Didn't he have 0?
Who said? And so that's going to be an interesting factor for me moving throughout this series is going to be which stretch 5 brings it. Because I think that 3-point element and just that offensive punch in terms of the paint, I think the team, to me, the team that responds to the physicality that's been set through the first game of this series, the team that responds best to game 1 by either, in the Knicks case, doubling down, or in the Celtics case, responding accordingly, that is going to be the determining factor to this series moving forward. But the way that you do that, if you're the Celtics, besides obviously calming down the threes and getting more paint touches if you're Jason Tatum, if you're Jaylen Brown, is letting someone like your big man in Kristaps Porzingis create a presence. Kristaps Porzingis not only had 0 points in the game, he was literally played off the floor. Luke Kornet played more minutes.
No, Kristaps was ill. He was ill.
He was ill, but I think the biggest thing about that is if he cannot show his stripes in this series, then the Celtics have no interior presence to establish at that point. So I understand that I understand there are outside factors. I also think that you can't rely on Al Horford and Luke Kornet to help you win this series when you're using the key word of physicality, or when we're using the key word of big man influence. We're using that phrase influence-wise. One of the biggest feathers in the cap of the Celtics coming into the series is that they have size at all 5 positions to compete with the Knicks. That issue becomes very difficult if Al Horford and Luke Kornet are dominating all of the minutes. Kristaps Porzingis has now created himself into, or developed into, an X factor for this series when I thought he was actually going to be a big-time differentiator that separated. Now, he might be the difference between them winning or losing.
No, it's just he's going to need to be evolved more. I need to see just better basketball from him, even to Jaylen Brown to a certain extent. Like, he just doesn't seem like himself. Like, over the
he's
first
been quiet before this series. He's felt kind of off, like kind of waving into the back half of the regular season. This is a guy who I've had real high hopes for this season to kind of reestablish himself after not really being truly a part of the ride to the championship last season. And I'm not gonna lie to you, so far, still crickets. I'm not gonna hold you.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've seen the peak of him, and the peak of him was conference finals Jaylen Brown last year, NBA finals, where he was like the best player on the team. The fact that we were giving him like like conference finals MVP, NBA finals MVP over Jason Tatum. We need that version of him in the series, especially like when you got like the offense of the Knicks absolutely humming right now, and then like you said, Kristaps just needs to be involved because like you have them as like your main paint presence. He needs to be like involved a lot more. So that has to do again more of a coaching thing, but let's see if the Celtics are able to respond. Which leaves us with the third place, and I think that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Game one, insane ending. It's I mean, like I shared my thoughts on the whole up by 3 fouling situation that they did there. They kind of did it completely wrong, in my opinion, and that kind of costed them. Jay, like, what is your level of worry with the Thunder team going like in the series?
I mean, if we're doing it on like the scale of a 1
Yeah.
to 10, I'm at a 5, and it's just more so because like they're just a youthful team still. I think at the end of the day, they got the experience they needed last year, but at the same time, you could also say like they won a series handily in round one against Memphis and got a significant break in between series, and you had to wonder how they were going to respond to that. But other than that, man, I mean, they played the Nuggets to a standstill. Alex Caruso was superb in this game.
He was
Um,
incredible.
Absolutely incredible. I believe he had like 5 or 6 steals in this game. Just felt like he was
Five
absolutely
steals, 2
everywhere.
blocks, 20 points. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, just felt like he was absolutely everywhere defensively. His impact on the perimeter, him and Lou Dort on the defensive end against, Jamal Murray was, as effective as you can get, given the fact that, Jamal was still able to get his in crunch time. Nikola Jokic, man, that dude with the arm sleeve on, he's a different animal, bro. I don't know what it is, but ever since he started putting the arm sleeve on, he just plays with a lot more aggression. We're seeing a lot more 25 and 30 shot attempt games from him with the shooter arm sleeve on. And then, man, TV, we talked about it off camera. Aaron Gordon has been the super, super duper, role player, maybe even their second best player on the team so far through the postseason, and is just playing out of body right now. So for the Thunder, you have to wonder, like, okay, with everything for the Nuggets kind of clicking its heels at this time, how much do you read into that in comparison to the fact that the Thunder still played them really well without Shea really getting to the line insanely? The fact that J-Dub didn't have a crazy game
Yeah, no,
offensively,
he
right?
wasn't good. Yeah, he wasn't great in game
You know
one.
what I mean? There's still elements of the Thunder's offense that still feels like a work in progress even, right? Yet this team was what? It was basically the last 47 seconds of the game.
Yeah.
Nuggets were basically within 2 or 3 the entire stretch. Chet Holmgren misses back-to-back free throws to give him the final 2 possession run that allowed them to be able to take the lead.
Yeah.
When you look at the sequence of events, you just ask yourself, what should the Oklahoma City Thunder necessarily be worried about when it felt like it was a bad case of everything that could go wrong went wrong in the last 47 seconds?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't
like,
know.
yeah, no, for sure. Like, you look at that game, the Thunder looked like they were supposed to win that game, even with
Mhm.
Jokic having like probably one of his best playoff games ever. The
Yeah.
fact that Eric Gordon and like they had like a good production from the role players. Jamal Murray turned up in the fourth quarter, and they still had basically control of this game. And what really cost them at the end was Chet Holmgren not like hitting those free throws, obviously, and just like some bad coaching decisions. I mean, the fouling went up 3, like not letting the time like drip down. There's so many things like within those last 30 seconds to evaluate that just went wrong for the Oklahoma City Thunder. That looking back, reflecting on it, the Thunder are like, okay, we kind of blundered near the end there. We kind of showed our youth there. We are gonna try and like look at these mistakes and just learn from them and to just stay a bit more composed, which is the biggest thing for the Oklahoma City Thunder. But Jay, the only thing I'm going to be worried about if I'm the Thunder, and I'm good with putting them at third, but Jay, they have like 2 centers in Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein, and none of them could do anything with Nikola Jokic. I mean, like absolutely anything
Yeah.
to the point where like Nikola Jokic was like getting I think 15 to 17 free throws in this game, completely almost fouled out both of them. Like more than anything, the offenses will get there for the Thunder. I think like they do need. It's just the defense that kind of worries me, and the fact that you like have these big bodies to try and get ready for someone like a Nikola Jokic, and he still completely schools you. Still shows that he is the best player in the league, and there's like honestly just making them kind of look like children out there in like in that last game. So I wouldn't be like afraid for like I wouldn't be worried about the Thunder in terms of like getting back to their game.
Mm.
but it's the defense, especially on the interior, the one where you're like, okay, this is why we brought Isaiah Hartenstein, and instead of like creating, like a Vika Zubac, forcing Jokic into more tougher positions,
Mm.
Jokic just completely played them throughout the entire 48 minutes.
I mean, definitely true, but I think that also goes to show you just how physical this series is going to be, right? Jokic almost fouled out himself in this
See that,
game, and you could
yeah.
see him kind of settling for 3-point jumpers towards the back half of the game because you could tell that he was trying to operate within the fact that he knew he needed to be on the floor, and actually was nearly not on the floor for the final couple of
Yeah,
possessions.
coaching blunder is coaching blunder there for the Thunder. So he's saying
Yeah,
like one of those
yeah.
coaching mistakes. Yeah,
That's definitely another one of those things that point out. But I think that's it goes and again. The word physicality comes up. TV in this series. I mean, obviously only one game to pull off from, but in game one, 8 players finished game one of Nuggets Thunder with 4 fouls or more. This is going to be a game. This is going to be a game too that I think is going to have a lot of similar elements to it in terms of these two teams trying to establish physical dominance against one another. I think the fact that you're having to throw so many bodies at Nikola Jokic is also part of kind of sending the warning shot to the Nuggets that OKC knows if Jokic is not on the floor, this team significantly slows down in terms of their offensive input. And we know, me and you know, so we know that the Thunder know backup center is not one of the Nuggets' strong suits, right? So
yeah.
I think forcing Jokic to have to be a genuine rim protector is going to continue to be a huge element of this series for the Oklahoma City Thunder. The biggest thing for me, man, and it's going to be really important, I think J Dub's ability to get downhill is going to be so important. It's not too many players on this Oklahoma City Thunder team that create paint touches. I will admit that. That's one of the biggest things that hurts this squad is that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the sole reason why when you go down free throw attempts per game for each team that the Oklahoma City Thunder are in the top 10. It's because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has about half of the team's overall contribution to that stat, right? Jalen Williams' ability to play more downhill and force those guys to have to crash on him creates a completely different element now because now you have another guy who creates this secondary slide that you have to honor, and that's how you get the Isaiah Joes, the Aaron Wiggins, the these guys that get the kick out 3-point shooting opportunities, Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace. You give them that opportunity, which is what we know Oklahoma City Thunder, what they thrive off the most is their ability to generate high octane shots from beyond the arc within chaos. Oklahoma City's offense is not very different from Indiana's. The only difference between Indiana and Oklahoma City is that Indiana prefers to get it truly within created transition. Oklahoma City's offense is generated within transition. There's two totally different things. For Oklahoma City, a lot of their 3-point opportunities are generated within a lot of movement chaos at the very beginning of the shot clock. For the Indiana Pacers, a lot of it is built off the fact that right off the rebound, we're going to go run and we're going to go sprint and create offense. This Oklahoma City Thunder team knows how to get to the rack. They know how to get to the rack, and they know how to play downhill. They know how to play fast and play with pace. If you force the Nuggets to play at your pace, that's what made it where the Oklahoma City Thunder got up to such a significant lead in the early part of the game. If you notice, when the game started to slow down and the Nuggets were able to operate more within half court sets, the lead dwindled down drastically. Which goes to show you that this Oklahoma City Thunder team, the young legs, also benefit off of high pace. When the Nuggets are able to bring them back down to earth at that pace, things significantly line up to the guy who I would say is the best half-court operator offensively in the league, being Nikola Jokic, who had his savant level of a game, as you mentioned beforehand. So I think OKC is in a scary spot, but there's still so many things. There's still so many things you can take from game one that says, let's not panic yet.
I'm not going to panic if I'm the Oklahoma City Thunder, but I will give some praise to the Nuggets that that the role players actually
Yeah.
caught and they played at such a big time. I mean, Russell Westbrook has been phenomenal all playoffs long. Yes, he's had some of his lows, but he's been phenomenal in terms of like being that secondary ball handler for the Denver Nuggets. Talked about Aaron Gordon. Jamal Murray hasn't been bad. It's just he's not been the playoff Jamal Murray that we were accustomed to, but he's still been like pretty good this playoffs.
Yeah.
So more than anything, I mean, the Nuggets just showed their experience in that game for sure. And to your point about the pace, like yes, the Thunder could push the pace, but at least like this season, the Nuggets have shown that they can kind of match up with it. They're a top 10 pace team as well, and now with Russell Westbrook, that they don't mind doing that. I mean that final play came off like a fast break sort of thing where he which led to an Aaron Gordon three. So I think the Thunder are not worried for them. I think that they're that the second. I'm just like looking towards the second and third options of the team really trying to step up, and if they could do that, then what I thought that was going to happen in the series that the Thunder offenses could completely overwhelm the Thunder, the Nuggets, will eventually happen. But you just need those other guys to step up because clearly Nikola Jokic is doing the job of like multiple players at this point,
Yeah.
and he's going to be able to kind of keep these games close.
Yeah.
So yeah, in terms of the series, let us know what you guys think down below. Which team are you most worried for in terms of the teams that have like lost all of the upper seeds? Let us know down below. Jay, before we move on to the NBA draft lottery stuff, we gotta talk about a team that went out because we talked about some teams like the Houston Rockets, what they could potentially do next, the Orlando Magic, and all those other teams. But the most interesting team going into this offseason, Jay, is a team that lost to the Denver Nuggets, funnily enough, the LA Clippers. We've been waiting for so long to say we've seen a healthy Clippers series. Let's see like how good this team can be with a healthy Kawhi, healthy James Harden. We got that here, and they ended up falling in the first round. And honestly, in pretty sad fashion in Game 7, James Harden didn't have a great shooting game as well. No, they didn't have like the role players didn't really step up, and the Nuggets, like everyone on that team, just played well that game and just completely dominated. But Jay, moving into this offseason, what's the next move for this team? Like, where do the Clippers go from here?
Oh man, so obviously they're in a weird position. If we want to go down their cap sheet, some of the things that they have in their favor right now is a couple of guys are going to be coming off the books, a couple of small contracts, but Amir Coffey, 3.9 mil off the books. Patty Mills, 2 mil off the books. Ben Simmons under $1 million off the books. James Harden and Nicholas Batum both have player options. Batum's player option is for 4.9 mil. I think with the fact that he was willing to leave Philadelphia to come back to LA, if he does play another season, he will be picking up that player option and playing his last season with the Clippers. And then the bigger question is James Harden, right? He has a player option for 36.3 million. Does he try to opt out and go for a longer term deal? Really depends. Obviously, the Clippers were willing to play hardball with Paul George. Do they do the same thing with James Harden? There's not too many places out there to throw him money. You know, you have a potential Fred VanVleet for James Harden swap out if you let Fred walk because I think they have a team option on him for 44 million.
Yeah.
So if they let him walk, obviously maybe you could, if you're the Rockets, you could have a Rockets reunion with a better point guard. Obviously James Harden was rumored to maybe potentially go back to the Rockets last summer. That's an idea. But after that, I mean, if I'm the Pistons, I don't know how crazy I am about James Harden. If I'm the Nets, I obviously don't want to go through that again. If I'm Utah, I'm not worried about him on my timeline yet. So I think that James Harden will probably be coming back. The question is just whether or not it's on him picking up his option or if it's on a restructured deal to get one more last, like, extensive contract, maybe 3 years, 80 million, something like that keeps the number kind of the same, but hopefully not too extensive on the years if you're the Clippers. Outside of that, the only other thing that I think they really need to do is it's technically two things, but only one is a real move. They need a backup center, TV. This team without Ivica Zubac on the floor is god awful. God awful.
I mean, we for center Ben Simmons was a possibility, and then he got flipped before real quick.
Yeah, man. I mean, the LA Clippers definitely need a backup center. This is going to be an interesting team in terms of potentially maybe flipping Bogdanovich again for the possibility of going after Nicholas Claxton. Is this a team that maybe tries to go grab Clint Capella for the low? Do you go after I wouldn't call him a small ball center necessarily, but do you go after a John Collins potentially this offseason? Like, those are kind of the questions in terms of like, but they definitely need to go after a center. They need a viable backup center behind Ivica Zubac badly to eat up those backup center minutes. I mean, you can make an argument that the Clippers have a worse backup center situation than the Nuggets do, which is insane to say, given that we've had issues with the Nuggets backup center play for years now. But Lord, I mean, the Clippers were absolutely exposed in their minutes without the Ivica Zubac in the series against the Denver Nuggets in round one. So they desperately need a backup center. And then the second thing is not an on the court thing in terms of personnel. It's more so how they run their team, which is whatever voodoo magic you used to get Kawhi Leonard through the regular season last year, buddy. Cook that joker back up and give that fondue back out, brother. Because whatever you can do to make sure that man is healthy, we saw it. It was these close to there being a LA Clippers advance to the second round conversation. I mean, it's built off of the fact that Kawhi Leonard had a pretty special, 6 games. Game 7 was relatively okay too, but I would say that, I think the Clippers were just completely outmatched in Game 7 to the point that it was like kind of silly to watch the game by the end of the third quarter.
Yes.
So,
Kobe Brown was their second best player in that game, bro. I'm telling you, Kobe Brown.
So, I mean, it's one of those things where I would say obviously the first 6 games were a better telltale of that, but whatever voodoo magic you use to make sure that Kawhi Leonard was healthy going into the postseason, you try to cook that stuff up again. And then, again, get a backup center that's viable, maybe fill in some spots where maybe you can get another decent backup point guard. They're in a good spot. The Clippers should be happy with what they've been able to do this season, given the expectations coming into the year. Now, coming out of this year, an all-star caliber season from James Harden, a resurgence in the postseason from Kawhi Leonard, a emergence of the Ivica Zubac as somebody that we might need to be having more conversations about as a top player in his position, right? Now the question is, how do you build this team out to sustain a postseason run for real now?
Jay, I feel like this is like a topic that we couldn't be any more different with.
Really? Okay.
Because Jay, I feel like
Snoop time.
The Clippers are in the best position possible in terms of their of how things ran out, right? Because for years and years, we're like, wait till Kawhi gets healthy. Wait till Paul George gets healthy. Wait till James Harden gets healthy. And Jay, they had the luxury of seeing it unfold in front of their very eyes.
So you think this is a get out jail free card?
This is the ultimate.
Oh, okay. I like that. I like that take. Okay.
Because look, see if they got through the series, right? Say if they beat the Nuggets.
Yeah.
They go to this next round, potentially get mollywopped by the Thunder.
Right.
So extends the playoff run for the chance of Kawhi Leonard getting injured again, potentially a chance for a James Harden injury, and then you're back to square one, thinking like, man, we were so close. If not for this injury, Jay, we still let these guys play out, and they were good, but they weren't good enough. And I think as a Clippers fan, as Steve Ballmer, you are breathing in a sigh of relief. Because now we don't have that whole thing like looming over us anymore.
Stevie's eating the New Orleans Pelicans gumbo, man. He's in team blow it up mode.
We've seen this story play out for 5 years, Jay. How much longer do we need to sit through this? This is technically supposed to be a rebuild year. That's what we thought before the year. Like, like are they even gonna be a playing team? Like, are they gonna find a trade, this and that, whatever?
Yeah.
We didn't think like them going this far. Yes, was one of the great surprises of the league.
Of course.
But it also allows them to be like, we could be a dark horse playoff contender. We can go further than this series versus the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
But then they get stopped at their tracks before a Kawhi injury, before a James Harden injury. Honestly, you've seen James Harden collapse again in the Game 7. You've seen all you need to know in terms of how a deep run could go.
Yeah.
So Jay, this is their get out of jail free card. This is the type of loss the franchise needs direction-wise. Because we've seen the healthy Clippers now. It's time to transition to a new era. We've never seen Ivica Zubac's trade value at the absolute highest. We've never seen Ivica Zubac this valuable in the NBA on a pretty damn good contract, mind you.
Yeah, I think didn't he finish third in most improved player as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the best case scenario, and Steve Ballmer is someone who wants to make these big time moves. When he going into that 2020 season, made a move for Kawhi Leonard, made the move for Paul George. He blew up everything. Now it's your chance. You're in a new stadium. You're starting to get this new influx of fans. You're starting to build a community, like an actual Los Angeles Clippers fan base. Rebuild the foundation. Start fresh. You have these guys healthy. You guys can actually now what looked like impossible trade candidates. There could be a world where you can see these happening, and you can start fresh. And even mention Norman Powell, who's probably at his highest trade value as a member of the Los Angeles Clippers. This is the ultimate jail free card, and I think if I'm Steve Ballmer and if I'm the Clippers fan base, more than ever, you're like, okay, at least we've seen how this plays out. We can sleep and have that rest of mind, saying at least we've seen it play out, and it just wasn't enough. Let's move on.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point. I mean, obviously, the biggest thing about a fire sale is just it's kind of interesting how they would go about playing it. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard's on an escalating deal, not by much, but he's owed $50 million the next 2 years before becoming an unrestricted free agent in 2027. So he's kind of a part of the team, but he would probably be one of the first guys you would think of as part of that fire sale. Vika Zubac, you mentioned him beforehand. I mean, you either are building around Zubac or you're building from the framework of whatever your trade package from Zoo is. Because let's be honest, out of any player on the Clippers right now, he is going to get the best return. I think he's getting a better return than even Kawhi Leonard, I believe.
At this point, I mean, obviously with the Kawhi injury history, the big contract, I feel like the Zubac, his trade value is probably at his highest. Yeah.
So Kawhi Leonard probably on that fire sale. Norman Powell still, I mean, he would be an expiring contract, so that would actually be pretty good. And he's got a pretty hefty with $20.4 million. So he's got a pretty high enough contract that if you wanted to kind of salary dump him, you could. I think Bogdanovich probably gets booked. And then, I mean, like I said earlier, they have a couple of guys and some smaller contracts fall off. Nicholas Batum probably picks up his player option. I do think if this is the route you're going full blow him up, I do think we would be seeing James Harden pick up his player option.
Yeah.
Which would either make him a 1-year rental to clear things off, and then you get him off your books, the summer after.
Which is easier to trade as well, being a 1-year contract.
I was going to say, or you flip him knowing that he's a 1-year contract that creates value through the fact that even though he might be a negative asset, he appreciates by the fact that he's going to come off of somebody's books the following season. So, I mean, there is a blueprint here for a full fire sale if you want to do it. I do just think, ironically, I made the comparison earlier. Are you drinking a little bit of the New Orleans Pelicans stew, though, of it looks like the perfect time to blow it up, but are you really gonna do it? That's the question.
Well, it also helps that the Stars are freaking 35 plus.
True.
It also helps, yeah.
But I will say the reason why I think that your take is so interesting is because I do think, very similar to the Pelicans, that get out of jail free card evidence sometimes is just the one trigger button you need to feel justified in making a move, like moving off of a Kawhi Leonard, off of a Vika Zubac, off of a James Harden in a 1-year flip, right? You justify it by saying, we've seen enough. We've seen it in every iteration. We've seen it with Paul George and Kawhi. We've seen it with just Paul George. We've seen it with Kawhi and James Harden. We've seen it in every iteration humanly possible. And whether it's injuries or just coming up short, we come up short. And there comes a point where we have to be able to resettle the deck. I do think there's some validity to that, especially if you're a Clippers team in a new stadium that has no foundation and no foundational picks to build up that foundation. You spitting facts, low-key. I don't think this team has the nuts to do it, but I do think that your framework...
Steve Ballmer here. I think you underestimate Steve.
Okay. I'll put it this way. Yeah. I hope for the Clippers' sake that you're right. Because I actually think that the Clippers should do what you think is their way out this summer. I just wonder whether or not they have the actual cojones to follow through with it. Because I do think it's the best thing for their franchise. But I would say, very similarly, the Phoenix Suns have a very similar question to answer this summer. Now, I think KD's out regardless. The question is more so who he goes to and for what kind of compensation. But you also still have to ask yourself how much more you can build up around Devin Booker with the current financial situation, knowing that Bradley Beal has a no trade clause, right? I
Yeah.
think that in a very similar framework, the Clippers are in that setup of you look like you have all the pieces to hit a full reset, but how are you going to go about it? Because you can't half-ass this. We saw the Bulls do it, right? The Bulls trade DeMar in the summer. They hold on Nikola Vucevic. They move on to Zach. They move off of Zach LaVine midway through the year for pennies on the dollar, and they look like a team that, although they made the play-in tournament, we knew they weren't ready for anything bigger, right?
Yeah.
The Clippers can't nickel and dime this if they're gonna commit to it. They can't. They gotta full-blown see it through. And I just wonder if they got the cojones to do it.
It's Jay. Timing is everything, and the
Yeah.
timing for this could not be better. And like I
Wow.
said, they have like all the pieces. It's very rare in the situation that you have a chance to do a complete teardown, and it
Yeah.
makes sense for all parties.
Yeah.
It makes sense
It's a
for absolutely everyone.
great TV for what it's worth. The ideology of the LA Clippers using a first round fumble with all things kind of playing in their favor, except for the things that normally plague them. In this case, being a James Harden collapse job in Game 7.
Yeah.
All evidence does point to the perfect rebuild. All evidence points in the direction that says this is going to this take, if they see it through, is going to age very well. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with it if they do follow through with it. Like I said, for not just for your sake in terms of your take, I think for the organization's take, for the Clippers, I hope that this is what they see. I hope they see what you see, because that's going to be better for their organization down the line.
The only thing like I have like a maybe like that might be a problem is like next year I think the Houston Rockets might own their pick, but in a perfect world you did mention James Harden potentially going back to the Rockets, maybe trying to get their pick back by giving some stuff away too. Who knows? So that at least they have control of that, and then making some other rebuild changes after that. But Clippers, I think it's time, and I think truly, if the fans like think about it, this is the time to do it. Honestly, this is like the perfect time to start to rebuild. But yeah, let us know down below what you guys think of the Clippers. What should they do next? Is it finally time for them to blow it up? People said they should have done it like last year as well, but I think they're in a lot better position to do it now to do so. So let us know what you guys think down below. Jay, it's time for the final segment of the show, and the NBA Draft Lottery is commencing this Monday at 7 p.m. Jay and I, we're still trying to work out the specifics about it, but we might be going live during it. I mean, both of our teams are in the Draft Lottery, which is very interesting. So we might be able to go live during the actual Draft Lottery. But what we're going to do here to end off today's episode is we're going to be heading over to the Tankathon website. And the Hitcher for this podcast, we're going to do our own little draft lottery to see how things are going to shape up and like how crazy this draft lottery could be. Because people like we've seen the tank race over the last year. All these teams trying to race to the bottom, but we've seen like situations like last year where the Atlanta Hawks were like the 11th best odds. They jump up to number 1 and they cause chaos throughout the rest of the draft.
Yeah.
Jay, how do you feel about this like draft lottery thing like going forward?
So obviously, for those listening, this is not us going through pick by pick and going through and actually picking the players for the teams once TV does sim things through. That'll be something that we actually do our own version of the mock lottery after the actual
when the
order is
season ends,
set.
basically, yeah.
Right.
And when the season ends, yeah.
So once the order is actually set, that's when we'll start using the actual mock lottery from that point forward. This is obviously more of a response to the kind of chaos that could take place on Monday night. And for me, I think the most interesting thing is going to be there was a lot of different teams that were thrown in with pick protections that are going to be floating around this portion of the portion of the draft. Either falling completely out of the top 5, top 4 protected means that one team has a pick versus another. Depending on the circumstances, I think San Antonio is favorable to have two picks in the lottery, kind of by hook or crook.
I mean, they have the Hawks pick unprotected, so no 2 teams.
So they have 2 picks in the lottery, kind of hook or crook. So it kind of just depends on what they want to do and where they land, obviously. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be very. I think our lottery is just going to give a very good indication of just how chaotic this can be, because obviously we all know the lottery can literally change the trajectory of a franchise for a team, both for good and for bad, depending on which end of the spectrum you end up on once all the ping pong balls fall through. So, TV, I'm ready to spin, man. I'm ready to spin.
Yeah, okay. I'm about to spin it too. Jay, how many times do you want me to spin this?
We're gonna go with the good old lucky 3, man. We're gonna go lucky 3, man.
Yeah, and just before I hit these buttons, the Spurs have the Hawks pick. I think like the Hawks have like the Kings pick. I think it was part of like that trade that happened mid-season. And then also the Houston Rockets have the Phoenix Suns pick. This is the problem with the Phoenix Suns. They don't even have their own pick control. So the Houston Rockets have that. So Jay, I'm gonna send this 3 times, and I'm gonna be kind of the Mark Tatum here and see who ends up jumping up. Okay.
Okay.
Jay, with the 14th overall pick, the selection will be made by the San Antonio Spurs. So the Hawks don't move. The Hawks don't move.
Pretty calm.
With the 13th overall pick, the selection will be made by the Sacramento Kings. So nothing changed there. Jay, unfortunately for you, with the 12th overall pick, the Chicago Bulls do not move in the lottery.
12.
At 12.
No.
Unfortunately. We're gonna move on with the 11th overall pick. And this is what's crazy, Jay. This is like where where I'm telling you that like stuff can go crazy, because with the 11th overall pick, the 11th best odds in this draft is the Dallas Mavericks, and Jay, they move into the top 4.
Oh my god! Okay.
I'm not gonna tell you where they are in the top 4.
Okay.
Which means the Portland Trail Blazers move from number 10 to number 11.
Ouch.
At the number 10 selection, again. Since the Dallas moved up, that means this team moved from number 9 to number 10. The Houston Rockets, via the Phoenix Suns, end up with the 10th overall pick.
Not too bad for them.
The 9th overall pick will now be made by the San Antonio Spurs.
Wow. So they have 9 and 12 or 9 and 14?
9 and 14, yes.
9 and 14, okay.
They have 9 and 14. Unfortunately for my Toronto Raptors, we end up dropping from the 7th best odds, and we are now selecting with the number 8th overall pick. And Jay, more chaos ensues. If you're a Philadelphia 76er fan, you are absolutely laughing because you have moved up into the top 4 as well. So you don't have to give up your pick, because people were scared that they were going to give up their pick to OKC if they go out of the top 7. Yeah. They stay in the top. They stay in the top 7, but they also are in the top 4 picks, which is crazy.
Wow.
Which means that the number 7th odds, the New Orleans Pelicans drop from 4 to 7.
Yikes! That sucks. Yeah.
What even sucks more is that with the 6th overall pick, the Charlotte Hornets drop.
Damn. Oh, that's the worst team to fall out.
And Jay, if that means they drop down to number 6, which means the Brooklyn Nets move into the top 4.
Okay.
So we have 3 teams already, Jay, who are not in those like top 4 odds.
Yeah.
Just completely jump up.
Wow. That's tough, bro.
And to make matters worse, the worst team in the league, the Utah Jazz, continues the streak of number 1 odd picks, dropping to number 5 because they are drafting number 5.
Damn! Utah at 5 would be I'm Danny Ainge. I'm pissed. Oh, man.
Insane. I'm telling you guys, when the draft lottery like hits, you're going to get some craziness. So, Jay, we're in the top 4. The only team that survived in the top 4 is the Washington Wizards.
Yes, sir. Local squad.
So they survive, which means the Philadelphia 76ers, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Dallas Mavericks all move up.
Wow.
So, going into the top, by the way, before we go into the top 4, who do you think, like, out of the teams that end up dropping, the Utah, Charlotte, New Orleans, who gets the worst?
I think just based off the move down itself, I think. Man, I'm not gonna lie. Utah got to be pissed, bro. Utah has to be pissed.
Yeah, because not only do they miss out on freaking Cooper Flagg, they're probably gonna miss out on Ace Bailey. They're probably gonna miss out on Dylan Harper. All these guys could have helped out as potentially being.
I don't think. I mean, where they land at 5? You said.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't even. They might just barely miss off of like VJ Edgecombe, even.
Yeah,
Right.
they might miss out on him. Like they might have to settle for someone like a Derek Queen or something.
Yeah, man. I
Yeah,
mean, and that's not a bad settle, but for
it's not
them,
bad. Yeah,
they've constantly had. This is now another year where they might be coming out of the draft without a true foundational piece, and that's tough for a team that's kind of been sitting around. Kind of another Danny Ainge team with a treasure trove of draft picks and not necessarily a whole lot to show for them just yet. This
yeah.
is kind of one of those situations where if he's planning on doing it all through the draft, it ain't hitting the way it was hitting up Boston, man.
Yeah, exactly. He's not getting that luck that
Jeez.
he got with getting the Jalen Browns and the Jason
Yeah.
Tatum's, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
yeah, the Utah probably got it worse there, especially because this was like their first season under 20 wins in their franchise history.
Yeah.
They come out with the number 5 pick. Pistons fans feel you, Utah. Pistons fans feel you. But Jay, we're gonna move into the top 4.
Okay.
With the 4th overall pick, the selection will be made by the Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, if I'm the Nets, I'm hurt, bro.
Hey, they were 6. They had the 6 best odds. They moved
They
up.
had the 6 best odds, bro. But I look at the other teams in that group, bro. It's me and the Wizards. We're the most deserving, bro. We're
Yeah.
the most deserving.
I know what you mean.
If I'm Nets fans, I'm salty because like what? All right, keep going. Now I'm really locked in.
With the number 3 pick, the selection will be made by the Philadelphia 76ers.
Okay. Okay.
76ers.
Interesting.
Hey, look, if you get the leftover of either Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, or Cooper Flag, you're going to be happy no matter what.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, the only thing that'll be interesting is like if they end up getting Dylan Harper, like that guard room is going to be kind of like weird.
It's funny because if you get Dylan Harper, you have yet another guard in that backcourt, which could be good or bad depending on how you view it. But I think the other side of it is you have to ask yourself, how does Ace Bailey fit into your makeup, given the fact that he's kind of best as an on-ball isolation scorer, and like
It's
you
weird.
gotta give Joel,
weird, yeah.
you gotta give Joel touches. You gotta let Tyrese
Paul
cook.
George.
Like Paul George, obviously, is still at your wing spot. Like is Paul George now your 2 on this team, dating back to his Indiana Pacers days? Like, what does this look like? You know what I mean? So
Yeah, it's
it
just gonna
gets
be
tricky.
chaotic. It's gonna be talented. They're gonna still be a very talented team, but it's a very chaotic bunch. No matter if they end up in the top 3, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But Jay, top 2. With the number 2 overall pick, the selection will be made by the Washington Wizards.
No, you're lying.
Means
You're lying.
the number 1 overall pick, the winner of the Hit Your Free Throws NBA Draft Lottery, Nico Harrison, you have been saved.
No
The
way.
Dallas Mavericks get the number 1 overall pick. Imagine the scenes. Imagine the scenes.
Not only would the Wizards losing the top pick to the Dallas Mavericks be the biggest slap in the face, but you know how vindicated Nico Harrison would feel coming out of the draft, knowing that he was able to walk himself in to another great white hope in Dallas? Like, that is so unfair, bro.
He doesn't deserve this. If this
does not.
Out of every team that we say that doesn't deserve, the Dallas Mavericks turning on Luka just to get the number 1 overall pick is nasty work. And what's hilarious about this whole situation too, if this happens, by the way, this is crazy odds because they're the 11th like best odds in this entire thing. So very like Atlanta Hawks-esque.
Yeah.
Very much. Anthony Davis got like hit with the same thing back in the day because like when he got traded to the Los Angeles Lakers in the offseason, they ended up just getting the first overall pick and getting Zion.
Yeah.
So like,
wow.
Yeah.
But you know what's crazier? Cooper Flag would give fan base optimism for that franchise in a season where they're going to miss most of the year without Kyrie Irving. And you can make an argument that he's a pretty damn good offensive and defensive fit next to Anthony Davis and Klay Thompson. Which is like the scary part. Is like even though you hate it from a more moralistic standpoint, in terms of the fact that like Nico Harrison just does not deserve this kind of dap, you also look at it and say, damn, but it kind of fits though. Like you almost want to see it.
You're not manifest. This cannot happen,
bro. You almost want to see it because you're like, yo, this could be hard. But at the other end of the spectrum, you also go, they didn't deserve this. Also, on the flip side of the spectrum, I also want to throw out there Wizards bias because they're my local team. TV, we said it before, man. Can we get some damn superstars in the East, please? Please.
No. If
Please.
it pulls this off and overtakes the Wizards, Utah, Charlotte, and New Orleans after the horrendous seasons they've been through.
Wow.
I mean, insane.
That's insane. TV, when we said lucky number 3 to get ourselves an interesting role for the lottery, bro, I did not see that coming, bro.
No, like
Dallas number 1 would be one of the craziest NBA storylines we've ever seen in terms of putting a handful of sequences together, bro. What?
I don't know. Yo, when I hit the third time and I see the number 1 is Dallas, I'm like, no, please. I know. Like, I didn't want this to, even like, I know this is fake. But I just didn't want this to be true. I'm like, please. Like, if this actually happens in real life, like, I don't know what I would like. Like, I don't know, imagine us being live and seeing that actually play out. Like, I think we would, like, just be dying of laughter knowing that we, like, predicted this on the pod.
Okay, so TV, I'm going to ask you a question, and this is what we're going to end the pod with.
Yeah.
We're going to end the pod with this little mini discussion.
Yeah.
We're not going to be optimistic because that's too easy. That's too easy. So we're going to be pessimistic here.
Okay.
Okay? What are your 3 worst outcomes for the lottery in your eyes in terms of whether it's number 1 overall, who goes number 1 overall, a team that drops completely far down, a player that you think fits on a perfect squad that you just know is not going to get drafted there? What's like your 3 worst possible outcomes you think that, like, if this happens, this draft lottery gonna suck, bro?
Okay, here I'm gonna give you like 3 things that like kind of like different perspectives of mine.
Okay.
As a Raptor fan, as a fan of the game,
yeah,
the worst possible thing that can happen is the Philadelphia 76ers keep their pick.
I agree wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly agree. We are hating over here on that.
Are hating over here?
Yes.
I'm an absolute Philadelphia 76ers team hater.
Yes.
I want to see, like, after the most disastrous season they've been through, that they still have to give that pick to the Thunder.
Yes.
It would be insane.
Yes, I agree.
Another thing that I think that would be absolutely horrendous. I think honestly, for like a Phoenix Suns fan, is that this team, if this somehow like ends up in like the top 4.
Oh wow, yeah, that would, because it would be Phoenix's, right?
So it would be Houston's.
It would be Houston's that jumps to top 4.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I'd be nice bets odds.
Yeah.
If I'm Houston, I would be livid.
Wow.
I would be livid. Like, imagine like going through like all this, having to trade away Kevin Durant eventually, and having no control of your picks, and then the Houston Rockets already with their sick young core get to add someone like a VJ Edgecombe, a Ace Bailey, someone like that. That's insane.
Yeah, if I'm Phoenix, I'm definitely sick about that. I'm not gonna lie.
Especially if they get someone like Dylan Harper to now replace like a Fred VanVleet down the line. Like, come on now.
Because now you just created cap flexibility because maybe you let Fred walk. Like,
yeah,
wow, like you didn't just trickled it down.
Yeah,
that'd
be horrible. That would be disgusting. And then honestly, Jay, I think our draft lottery did it. If the Mavs move all the way down to all the way to number 1, as the Hawks did. Remember, this isn't out of the complete realm.
Yeah,
we saw this with the Hawks last year, where they missed. They played the play-in game. They lost the first one, and then jumped up to number 1.
Yeah.
So there's a precedent for this.
Yes.
So if that happens, I don't know how I'd feel, bro. Like, honestly, like, this has already been a crazy playoffs, a crazy trade deadline. It's like probably the craziest like off the court NBA season. Now you're adding the on the court stuff too. Yeah. This would be like the craziest 6 months of NBA basketball ever if that happens.
I think that would be, I mean, literally, first of all, biggest slap in the face ever. Let's start there, because like biggest slap in the face ever. Period, point blank. I just think that would be wild. But here's the one that I'm gonna throw out.
Yeah.
That is the one I would maybe pivot as my third. I think we agree on Philly and we agree on Dallas. My true third worst case scenario, as much as I want this team to grow, TV, if the San Antonio Spurs have 2 picks in the top 8, if the San Antonio Spurs have 2 picks in the top 8, bro, and they make the freaking Avengers of Rookie of the Years.
the Avengers Young Core, like we're talking about the Young Avengers over here, just building in San Antonio on
like,
draft picks alone.
like, dog, what? Like, you gotta think if they get 2 top 8 picks, that would mean that like at least 1 or 2 Eastern Conference teams would get bumped out of the top 5. Like, oh my gosh, bro. That would be if Dallas. Wow, there's a universe, bro, where the Western Conference will be so cracked out that Adam Silver would have to get rid of conferences. like there's a universe where like if Cooper Flag goes to Dallas, you just have to scrap conferences, dog. Like, what do you do to make the East any better? And no disrespect to Dylan Harper, no disrespect to Ace Bailey, no disrespect to VJ Escombe. I'm just talking about in terms of what you talk about, generational hype around prospects. Like, if you're talking about like viability, wanting all eyes on these young players, like the West is stacked. You go through in the Western Conference. I'm just going to use the lottery itself. New Orleans still has Zion. Don't know how long that's going to last, but still got Zion. San Antonio, they got Wemby. Phoenix, at the end of the day, they still got Devin Booker.
I mean, that's Houston's pick, though, and they have freaking, like, the roster.
Yeah, Houston, and that's Houston's pick. Houston looks amazing. Amen Thompson is looking like a top 10 player in his position already and might be dangerous next year. That doesn't even count for the fact that this team might mess around and have money going into the summer. Dallas would have Cooper Flag. Portland is a young and rising team, and people are coming on to the Tumani Kamara train, and we still like the development of Scoot Henderson and those young guys over there. Sacramento, that's probably where there's a little bit of a drop off, but Memphis,
in Utah, there's like
and Utah, but Memphis still has Triple J and Ja Morant. Golden State still has Curry. Minnesota has Ant Edwards. The Lakers have Luka. Like, Denver has Jokic. OKC has Shea.
Basically, just throw a lifeline to the East, please.
I mean, Jesus, bro. I mean, the East Coast, you're going to have to move all the East Coast times to West Coast time viewings just for us to be able to get any good TV play, because, like, everyone's going to want to watch Western Conference games, bro.
Insane, bro. Crazy way. And we said before, like, the segment started, that, like, some crazy stuff could happen, obviously, in the draft. And if this, like, ends up happening, I think NBA social media would break for, like, the 3rd time this year, maybe the 4th time already this season.
Facts.
So it would be crazy. We might be locking in through NBA Live, through a live stream that day. So be sure to look out for that. That is the NBA Draft Lottery. Let us know, like, what are your guys' worst case scenarios down below as well. We want to hear all of that, because what we simulated there could end up being could end up being an NBA the NBA nightmare. But yeah, Jay, end of today's episode. Thank you guys for watching. What do you have to tell these people before we sign out?
Crazy postseason, potentially bonkers lottery around the corner. NBA free agency is coming up. Dude, if you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Hit subscribe, bro. We're about to be dropping mad content. We obviously have been trying our best throughout the postseason. More things are coming along as news continues to drop. Obviously, with free agency coming around the corner, guys are going to potentially be relocating. Some guys are getting a little too old to keep hooping, so some people might be out of the league altogether. There's going to be a lot of massive change and a lot of new power stepping up within the NBA, and we are covering every second of it. And if that didn't make you feel great about what the Hit Your Free Throws podcast is doing, WNBA season starts next Friday, guys. We're locked in.
Basketball is on the rise, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you lock into the Hit Your Free Throws podcast for all of that. NBA playoffs, of course, we're going to be there to the very end. The NBA draft, the NBA draft lottery, WNBA coming up. Everything's up and daddy over here at the Hit Your Free Throws podcast. And yeah, make sure you check out all of our stuff. Again, the social medias, podcast networks, YouTube. Be locked into all of that stuff. And again, thank you guys for all your support. Continue to support the Hit Your Free Throws podcast through all of the links down below. Jay and I will be back next week for another episode, probably like after the draft lottery, just so we can get like our full reactions on that as well. Yeah. But yeah, it's been a great episode. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a fantastic day. This is TV. This is Jay. We're signing out. Peace.